You have to be careful and you have to stand up. And we've got a situation where the police are. There was a guy in Humberside who retweeted a poem which was deemed to be transphobic. And then the police phoned him up and said, we need to check your thinking on this.
Jeez.
And he said, well, what's my crime? And they said, and I'm not kidding, they said, this is a non-crime hate incident. I want the state to stay out of people's private lives. So, you know, I find that, you know, in the UK, they've already proven that they can't be trusted on all sorts of issues. You know, the fact that they're criminalising people who tell certain jokes, for instance, the fact that they don't see the difference between a joke and the literal truth, that means that, to me, I don't want them getting involved in curbing people's speech, you know? And I think that the free speech, I mean, you've got a First Amendment, you're okay.
Yeah, for now. Yeah.
We don't have that, and we have an unwritten constitution, which means it's constantly being reinterpreted, and sometimes quite badly.
So as a free speech guy and a guy that's out there doing pretty controversial stuff, how cognizant are you aware that you don't have the First Amendment, right? So comedians here, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
And, you know, every time Trump tweets, these edgy comedians tweet, you know, they tell him to, you know, go kiss off or you know, whatever they say to him.
Yeah.
They can say whatever they want, and Trump doesn't send the police. The Gestapo doesn't knock on the door. You're good to go.
Yeah.
But in the UK, you don't have certain protections.
Okay, so it doesn't affect me so much. So I've never made the claim that I'm being silenced, right? I'm actually in a really privileged position. I don't have a boss. I can say whatever I want. I'm a comedian and a writer, so I do say whatever I want. I've never felt that I'm being censored. The concern is that actually the people who do, I mean, look, say if I was still a teacher, could I send the tweets that I send at the moment? Absolutely not. I would get in a lot of trouble. I know people who have got in trouble at work because of jokes they've made or things that have been misconstrued. Mm-hmm. A lot of people over in the UK are now talking to their friends at work over WhatsApp, which means that their jokes get encrypted, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really weird, isn't it? The idea that you must encrypt your jokes, you know, in case they're sort of overheard.
Encrypted by a company that's owned by Facebook.
Brilliant. Right, there we go. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So I mean, on the whole, I think we do have freedom of speech. I don't think there's a big freedom of speech crisis. What I mean is, you have to be vigilant about it. You have to be careful and you have to stand up. And we've got a situation where the police are. There was a guy in Humberside who retweeted a poem which was deemed to be transphobic. And then the police phoned him up and said, we need to check your thinking on this.
Jeez.
And he said, well, what's my crime? And they said, and I'm not kidding, they said this is a non-crime hate incident. And that's standard police practice. So that's a worry.
Well, so every few weeks I see one of those tweets. It's usually from the Sussex police, right? Is that who it is?
Oh, it's all over the place. I mean, it's West Yorkshire police. It's been the Glasgow police as well. It's various police departments.
They literally tweet out things like, if someone that you know said something that you might have taken offense to, please let us know.
Right, exactly. And I think,
how much more Orwellian can you get?
Right, and you know, whenever you use that word Orwellian, people say you're being cliched, but there is no other word for it. What else are you going to call it? That's exactly what it is. So while I'm saying, you know, this isn't to the point of a kind of authoritarian state, right? But when you see these things, you have to stand up and say, no, this is, you know, we can't have this. We've got to get rid of this. And if you don't, that's where the slippery slope begins.
Well, do you think it's partially that people just don't stand up? So, for example, you keep doing what you're doing. We know Douglas Murray and Peter Lloyd and Paul Joseph Watson. I mean, there's plenty of people all over the political spectrum that do stand up to it. They haven't grabbed people and brought them to the gulags yet. But it's just like, we just need more people to stand up, and then they'll kind of paper tiger disappear.
I think the trick is you've got to stand up for people you don't like. That's I understand why people don't want to stand up for the right thing. There's a thing called preference falsification, where you say what you think is going to be best received as opposed to what you actually think. And I understand that impulse, because I mean, it's a protection, isn't it? It's a kind of shield. But if everyone's a bit more courageous, and you know, when I defend someone's right to say something and I don't like what they've said, invariably I get told that I'm endorsing what they've said. So this is fundamental misunderstanding. I think generally with free speech, there's a kind of fundamental misunderstanding of what it is. You know, nobody is saying there shouldn't be consequences to speech. Nobody is saying that. They're saying that if you want to argue back, ridicule, whatever, you know, that's a protest even, that's great.
Great.
I'm all for it, right?
Yep.
It's when you get the police involved, you know, and it's not the same as perjury or libel laws or those kind of things, which are, or harassment, which are already covered by law, you know. We're talking about, you know, and the other one I get all the time is, well, you can't shout fire in a theatre. Actually, you can, but you're a bit of a dickhead. And to be honest, if you do that, the theatre authorities are well within their rights to ask you to leave.
Right. There's a little confusion, like some legal confusion that has sort of become lore about the fire in a crowded theater.
It's not true.
Yeah, like you can't incite a riot, basically, is the right? Like there's some...
So, with the incitement to violence thing, I imagine there are circumstances where there's a mob and someone's, talking to the mob and saying, "Go and get that person."
Yeah, well, that you can't do.
Right, sure. So we have laws that cover incitement to violence, but the trouble is, this is another example of the state getting it wrong. So recently we had a debate in the UK Parliament because Boris Johnson and the Conservatives were using language like the surrender bill to describe a bill that relates to the Brexit negotiations, and they were accused of using military language which incites violence. It's called a metaphor, right? Honestly, like so many people on the sort of liberal left social justice group, they don't understand basic metaphor. They don't understand it. They don't understand jokes, right? They take them completely literally, right? There's an example of this. So there's a comedian called Andrew Lawrence in the UK who posted a joke online, and I'll say what the joke is. Probably is offensive, right? So this was the joke. So the joke, brace yourself, right?
Yeah, okay.
So the joke was basically that the statistics on suicide between men and women are not comparable, and so more men kill themselves than women. So therefore, if feminists really care about equality, they should kill themselves, right?
Now, funny.
Okay, right, yeah. But now it's not the joke, and it's not people being offended. I think people should be allowed to be offended, and they've got the right to be offended. That's not the issue. There was a petition which called for him to be, deplatformed from the BBC, even prosecuted. And what they said was this was inciting women to kill themselves, right? Now, if your opinion of women is that low, that you think they're so stupid that there's just these little drones that just will kill themselves if they hear a joke about it, and that concerns me, this kind of literal mindedness about metaphor, about jokes, about art. You get that in Hollywood all the time, like, we need to represent women in a certain way, so let's make the Charlie's Angels reboot, which nobody wants to see because it's clearly social engineering. It's clearly, you people, you think the wrong way, and we're the Hollywood people, and we're going to tell you how you should be thinking, right?
Yeah.
People, that is rebarbative to people. It just puts people off.
It's so interesting, this idea that we have to take all of these old movies that were classics and then just remake them with women as if the women can't watch the old ones or appreciate it. The Ghostbusters is the easiest example.
Right.
When they did the all-women remake, I watch it. I have no problem watching an all-woman cast of Ghostbusters, but the movie was freaking horrible.
Yeah, no one cares about this stuff. Like, this is the thing about this. Like, you don't need to educate these fans, like particularly science fiction fans, particularly comic book fans. They've done this a lot with sort of changing the genders and the race and the sexual orientation of various major characters. And it's like, these are already the outsiders, these comic book fans. These are people who have no issues with this. It's like a school mistress sort of finger pointing and jabbing at people when they don't need that education. It generates a lot of resentment. People hate it.
Do you think it's also sort of funny, I think especially with the gay thing, the way that they sneak in these messages? So it's like in the two that I could think of, and I'm sure you have like a gajillion more, but the two that really struck me as like, they're just like smacking you with this in the worst way, is in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
They had the one gay character was just the guy in rehab, who I guess maybe went on a date with a guy, and Captain America was like, "Good for you," like that. So that was throwing the gays like the tiniest bone. No pun intended. It was just like, see, we did something gay. It has nothing to do with the superheroes or anyone you give a shit about, but it's something gay. And then the other one was in Rise of Skywalker, where at the end that woman has that lesbian kiss, and it's like, again, it's not a real character. It's not anyone cares about, but we did something for the gays. So it's just like, take our little pity.
Well, there's that. But also, like, the gays don't need your pity, right? We don't need, like, I don't need to see pink stormtroopers, and I don't need to see gay people in Star Wars for me to feel okay about stuff. It's like, anyway, there's been C-3PO for years. There has been gay representation in all of the Star Wars films, so it's not an issue.
Him and R2-D2 have been in a robosexual relationship.
Quite explicit, and I don't need to see that. I mean, they did, they did the same with Avengers, like you say. They did the same with the J.K. Rowling, the Fantastic Beasts stuff, and they were saying that it wasn't gay enough. He said, this is the point. So you've got Dumbledore, but it's not explicitly gay enough. What do you want to see? You want to see him?
You want to see him?
I don't know, getting fisted or something like that. I mean, is that really what you need? Can I say that? Sorry, I don't.
You can. I mean,
I don't need to.
I don't know that people want to hear you say it.
No, I know. Sure,
Dumbledore getting fisted is not.
I don't. Right, I think it's really patronising. I think ultimately that's what it is. Like, so much of what drives what I do is I hate the way these people patronise minority groups. I hate that because I think it's the opposite of what they say it is, right? So if you claim to be fourth wave feminism, right, which claims to be all about empowerment of women, it's not. It's about treating them like children. It's about victimizing them. It's actually genuinely misogynistic, but it's sort of papered over with this kind of sheen of we're doing something progressive. I don't think there's anything progressive about any of this stuff. And the other thing I hate about it is I think it legitimizes bullying. I think the social justice movement, I hate bullies. I can't stand them, right? And if you stand up against them, they get even more vicious, right? You must have noticed this, right? So it's funny, all of the signals about how good you are, like putting pronouns in your bio on Twitter or putting a rainbow flag up there on Twitter. Why is it whenever I get brutally attacked on Twitter, those are the people, when I go to their bio, oh, pronouns, what? And I'm not saying that the pronouns themselves or making a connection with trans people. I want a legitimate answer to this. I've asked this question before. Why is it the case that the most vicious, the most bullying, and the most unpleasant characteristics tend to come from those people? I don't know why.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.